New York Giants are 2-0. David Turner, former NFL scout, joins us to talk about their latest win, a 19-16 victory over the Carolina Panthers. That's coming your way next on the LockedOn Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. My name is Patricia Traina, and today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projections, you can win up to 10 times the amount of your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. And ladies and gentlemen, we have, believe it or not, another Giants victory to talk about. The Giants currently in first place, 2-0 in the division. They beat the Carolina Panthers 19-16 at MetLife Stadium for the home opener. Wasn't always pretty, but they got it done. And here to join me in breaking it down and talking about how the game unfolded is David Turner. He's with me every Monday every Sunday, I should say, after a game. And David, 2-0, man. If I had told you they were going to be 2-0 at this point, would you have believed me?
Well, again, we talked about it preseason. Remember, we said that the defense was going to look pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And the offense was going to take a little time to maturate and get there. So we kind of said what was going on, and the defense still don't have their young bucks. But isn't it so nice to say the first place New York Football Giants?
Oh, my gosh.
Like the first place in their division, New York Football Giants. 2-0, the unbeaten, the G-Men are rolling. So
yes, they are.
We'll talk about why it wasn't like a full-on route today where it had a chance to be. But it's just, let's just let that linger here this Monday morning. G-Men are in first of their division.
I think a lot of people are going to like the sound of that. I mean, this win, a gritty win, nothing, pretty. A lot of field goals, a couple of missed opportunities in the red zone. But I think we've got to start this week with the defense. My gosh, can we talk about the job Wink Martindale's defense did against this Panthers team?
Hey, if you take out that 149-yard run by Christian, these guys didn't even have 100 yards rushing, right? Christian squeezed through one hole and got 49 for the long. Other than that, they would have had under 100 yards rushing. So, yeah, I mean, again, I know Wink. I told you it was coming. What he showed in preseason, especially the first preseason game, was a vanilla. He took a nap during that game, right? We are seeing a lot more. You're seeing the confidence in this defense start to come forward, that belief in his system starting to work for him. So it's really nice to see. And, I didn't get the post game on the injury, but I hope, obviously we all hope Williams is not hurt too much or too badly. And, the two kids can start to come back soon and get in there, because once he gets those two kids on the edges, this defense is going to even have more firepower up front. They're already getting a lot of push. I mean, Dexter Lawrence, Williams, what's the
Dexter? You said Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah,
Williams.
Zimenez. He's been showing up, doing well. Again, Fox has been doing well. So, that front, which we know is going to be the catalyst to success for this Giants defense, even without the top two kids, they're doing it well and they're getting pressure. It's fun to watch so far.
It definitely is. And we saw a few exotic looking blitzes. I saw, for example, safety blitz, Xavier McKinney came in. But let's talk about one thing that I think Wink did a little bit more of this week than he did last week. Played more 3 safeties. And and seemed to work. He had Dane Belton in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Belton, I believe, played the deep center field. And if I'm not mistaken, I hope I've got this right. I think Julian Love came down and played like that star linebacker. And then you had, of course, McKinney in there. And basically, they did a job on shutting down Christian McCaffrey. Like you said, he had the 49-yard run, finished 15 carries, 102 yards. You take away that 49-yard run, which I think was a miscommunication or might have been a missed tackle. McCaffrey didn't really hurt them. He had 4 receptions, 26 yards. So they figured out how to shut him down.
And no, I was just going to say, it was like, Wink used that star position to really shut down McCaffrey. Flott looked well. I know he got burned for that one touchdown, and then right behind that, or right before that on the same drive, he got, a nice catch, a back shoulder catch on him. Those are hard to defend, let's be honest. And on the touchdown, it looked like his toe hit the heel more, and he just stumbled coming out of the break. Their feet got tangled up a little bit, and he fell down. It happens. But other than that, I mean, the guy covered a number one receiver in the league for the rest of the game and didn't give up much to him. So, he was in position to play really well all day. So again, I think, when you look at this game, you look at this defense, it's really starting to gel. And we said coming out of preseason, Wink's defense was going to look good, probably best around week 5, right? Mm-hmm. The offense probably 6, 7, and then through the rest of the season. We still got to be patient. We can be excited about what we're seeing. The turnovers were great, obviously, to start the game with. The defense is ripping and pulling at the ball. They're hitting people. They're gang tackling. I mean, Christian shook a couple players on a couple of different runs today. But, the second and third guy was there to clean up the hits and take them down. So this is going to be a really fun defense this year to watch. And I cannot wait for Ojulari and for Thibodeau to get on the field to join and feast with these guys. Now, Williams, is that a bad injury?
From what I understand, there's optimism, but he's got to have tests. He had a brace on his knee when he left the locker room. I didn't see him. One of the other reporters mentioned it to me. And also he was quoted as saying that he was optimistic. But, last week when Wan'Dale Robinson got hurt, it was supposedly no big deal, and he was inactive this week. So I'm more inclined to wait and see what the tests say. But early word is it's not serious, but we'll see.
And I'll be honest, it's smart to rest some of these guys early in the season, make sure they're hurt so it doesn't nag, or they're recovered, so it doesn't become a nagging, lingering, thing. I mean, you got 17 weeks. You're 2-0. Not saying get comfortable, not saying take the foot off the gas here, but if you got a guy like Williams that might need a couple weeks to take a break, okay. We need him for the remaining 13 games,
Right. Before we move off the defense, is there any area of that defense that still concerns you after 2 games?
Oh, the secondary still, still hold my butt cheeks on the secondary because I just don't know what I'm going to get there, right? Like, they're looking good. We're just not sure yet. Like, I don't think we're sure yet. We haven't, it's my opinion, we haven't seen a quality quarterback yet either. So the secondary, we'll see when it gets tested, in the next few weeks, and when some better quarterbacks come down the pipe, what do they look like? Right now we're getting the push up front, but if Ojulari and Thibodeau aren't there and Williams needs a couple weeks break, we'll see. That means the quarterback's going to have more time to hold the ball. And once that happens, it gets kind of crazy, right? Like, we'll see. So I still am questioning the secondary a little bit. I like the safety play. Again, like you saw it today, when we can run that personnel group, we do really well because we have good safety depth. It's the outside corners, right? It's those corners that we just don't have 100% faith in right now. And then we missed what Robinson was out with his appendix got burst or something. So
appendectomy.
Yeah, so that happened this week. So again, we're thin at the corners, nickel spots. I think we're a little thicker at the safety spot, but some of these receivers you can't get away with covering with a safety. So, that's the biggest question mark on the defense, and then the health, obviously, of the young kids get back in there and Williams because once they do, that's going to be really fun. I'm going to say it all year long. It's going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely. All right, Giant fans, coming up next, we're going to talk about the offensive side of the ball right after this commercial break. Hey, Giant fans, planning your fantasy sports or betting action for the upcoming year has never been easier when you use PrizePicks. You can win up to 10 times the amount of your money on any entry, and there's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available for any of the major sporting leagues. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less, and it's that easy. PrizePicks is currently operational in 30 states plus Canada and offers safe and fast withdrawal. Download the PrizePicks app today or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LockedOn. Don't forget to enter that promo code LockedOn at sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the LockedOn Giants podcast. You got Patricia Traina here with David Turner, former NFL scout, worked for the Giants, the Raiders. He worked in the CFL as a personnel guy. Expert opinion, helping me break down these Giant games every week this season. Glad to have him back for a second season. And don't forget, Giant fans, tomorrow we've got Twitter Tuesday. Get your questions into me. And you know the drill. The information's in the show notes, and we'll just go through as many questions as we can. David, I want to talk about the offense now. For the second week in a row, this offense got off to a slow start. What does this team have to do? First of all, actually, let me back up a little bit. What's causing the slow start, and what does this team need to do to speed it up a little bit and come out of the gate a little, faster?
The polite version?
Yes. Of course.
They need to take the play calling out of Kafka's hands, and they need to put it back into Dabo's hands. Because why?
Whoa.
Kafka is a quarterback, and he sees nothing but quarterback plays. When he's calling the plays, he's often calling friendly quarterback plays. And what you need in this offense, it really needs to be a downhill power running offense, much like when Dabo was the offensive coordinator at the remember when he was at the Cleveland Browns?
Oh.
And way back, it's a while back, but I'm old school. I remember it. And they ran the ball downhill and power and let's go, because today in pass blocking, the right guard was just getting his ass handed to him. Sorry. and he was struggling, but in run blocking he did well. And so it was just like, come off the ball, let them run block. I know it was a tough front to run block with, but you saw when they committed to the run, they got movement. I mean, Shaq had 21 carries for 72 yards, but Breida only had one carry for -4 yards. Brightwell had one carry for 14, which that 3-back set was awesome. I like that call. That was a great call right there. That caused some confusion. And they rushed for just over 100 yards, but again, Shaq needed to go early. And that's going to be the key to this defense. When we got on offense, when we got on here last week, I said they found their identity running the football and power football. They got away from that. Even down, they got the 2 turnovers quick. And they got down on the second turnover, down inside like the 5. And the first play, they tried to run some reverse to Tony or something. It was like, bro, you got Shaq Barkley. Just line it up, put 12 personnel, and let's go. Get downhill and hit people. Invoke your will onto individuals. If they do that, this team can really be a special running team because you got good backs. Again, Breida's a good back. He should have touched the ball 4 times today, if not 5 or 6, and he only touched it once. They ran the ball, 33 times. They threw the ball 34 times. So there's good balance there, but 10 of those runs are Daniel Jones. So
well, let me ask you this just real quick. How much of it was what the Panthers did? I mean, the Panthers have played a pretty good defense, I think, a little better than they did in week 1. So how much of it was the Giants responding to what the Panthers were doing to them?
When I watched it, and the report that I would give my coaches when I was doing the advanced report would have been this coaching staff outthought themselves in this game. Plain and simple, because The Browns showed them the game plan. Come off the ball, get physical, gaps will open up. Because if you remember last week in the first quarter, the Browns didn't have a ton of rushing yards, but they stayed at it. They stayed committed to it. Second, third, and then by the fourth quarter, they were ripping off big yardage. Because while the Panthers have a good first tier offense or defensive line, their second tier, when you tire that first tier out, is not very good. So what you have to do is get that rotation going and get those top guys tapping the helmet to go out. So now you can take advantage of the second line. And that's exactly what they should have done, is worn out that first line. And then by the second half, big holes, big rip-offs would have been coming because they don't have a good second line coming in. And that's what I think they failed to do here. They got too cutesy, too quick with reverses and things. And they're like, oh, everybody's going to think we're going to run Shaq, so let's try this and let's try that. And it really fed into the Carolina Panthers defense because the Carolina Panthers defense is fast. Like, they're fast. You can't get outside on those guys. They're small, though. You got to go downhill on them. You got to push them around. You got to bully them. You got to get them kind of, like I think Shaq Thompson is 205, maybe 210. I mean, he's not a really big dude. They might report him as a bigger dude, but I worked with him. I know he's not a really big dude. He likes to slash and run people down from behind because he's fast. So, again, my personal opinion is you got to teach Kafka to run the ball. This is what the identity of this team is run the ball. I've seen Dabo do it in different spots in Kansas City. I've seen him when he was in, like I said, Cleveland do it. Buffalo, he shined with Josh Allen, obviously, and what Josh could do a little bit more. They didn't have the number one back like we have here at the New York Giants. So I think he needs to teach Kafka, like, listen, we're going to drop 25 plays. 15 of them are runs. None of them are going to be for receivers. We're going to have 15 runs for running backs, and the Breeder's going to have 5 of them. Brightwell's going to have 3 of them. The rest are all about Barkley runs. You know what I mean? That out of the first 25 plays, that's what we're going to do. And then, we'll go from there.
So don't replace Kafka. Just work with him to better fine-tune the script, if you will.
Sure.
Okay. You don't sound very convinced. You don't.
I'm not a big fan when you got a guy like Dabo who can call plays so beautifully and can script them wonderfully. I'm not a big fan of handing that off to someone else. Mm-hmm. And you got a guy like Kafka who's never called plays before, ever. And so
gotta learn though. Eventually, he's got to learn at some point.
I get that. I get it. I'm all about it. Like, okay, so when I was in Hartford at the Colonials, Chris Palmer was our head coach. Okay, Chris, worked at the Giants. And Dave Ragone was our offensive coordinator, and Shane Waldron was our receivers coach. Both of them are OCs now in the league. But once in a while, Palmer would take the play calling away just to teach the young kids the rhythm of play calling and how to do it. And those drives would be very successful. And then they'd get in coaching meetings like, see what I did there? You see how I did that? You see how I built it? And again, Dabo in preseason let Kafka get his feet wet. But I think where Kafka can really learn through a whole season is if Dabo took the play calling back, called it, showed the rhythm, showed the rhyme, shown how to do it, and then next season maybe hand it off because Kafka could really see it. They would be in a rhythm and rhyme together where they could see it. Right now, I think Dabo is seeing stuff. He's calling it upstairs. He said, hey, look at this, Mike, look at that. When I think in teaching, it's like when you have a quarterback, right? Like you had Mahomes sit behind Alex Smith. You have a quarterback sit behind a quarterback, and they learn and they see it. A play caller, when you have a really good play caller in front of you, you can sit behind them and see it. McVay's students are showing that a little bit here. Some of McVay's students are going into head coaching jobs now, and they're going places and they're making really good calls because they watch McVay do it on the sidelines week in, week out. So now when they get the opportunity to move the seat over, they get to do it. I'm not killing Kafka. I'm just saying early on that you ask why they're not having success, and it's taking a little time to get this offense going, especially into the second halves. Both for these first games didn't go because Dabo went to the locker room, made the adjustments, told Mike what to do a little bit better, and then Mike came out and did it. But if you want to start fast, let Dabo take the play calling over
and Mike can learn from him. And it's not a demotion in any ways. It's just a teaching way because Dabo's so good at it. Like Dabo has a natural rhythm to his play calling that I think would benefit the offense and would benefit Mike to learn.
Interesting perspective. I think you're the first person who suggested that. I thought maybe it was, be less cute because you're right. They were a little too cute in the beginning there. And two of those drives, they had 2 turnovers and they only got 6 points off those 2 drives, which is just, that ain't going to cut it in this league. I think we can both agree that is not going to cut it. You've got to come away with 7. But
well, think about it right there. Right there. You got 2 turnovers, okay?
Yep.
And your defense and special teams are hitting and they're physical and they're, the fans were arriving like they were loud. They were like, let's go, right? Now, if you come out and you pound the ball down their throats, just run it at them, right? And you break them and you actually get a touchdown. Now what happens to that whole environment goes crazy, but not only does the stadium love it, your sideline loves it because your identity is we're going to hit people. Not only on offense or not on defense especially, but on offense, we're hitting people. Now you got that toughness and you're invoking your will on people. That's infectious. And it gives your offensive line a lot of confidence because pass blocking was leaky all day today. Leaky. And when we tried to run those reverses and things outside, leaky. Things were leaky. So that's not where you put confidence. When you look at them struggle like that, okay, we're taking those, we're putting them on the back burner, we're just coming off the ball going downhill.
All right, interesting perspective for sure. That's why we have you on the show because you come up with some things that people ordinarily wouldn't even think of. So that I can see where you're coming from with that. All right, folks, coming up, we're going to talk Daniel Jones. We're going to talk the receiver usage. Kenny Golladay only getting 2 snaps. That's coming up next, right after this. Hey, Giant fans, Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, Canada, and UK. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance, so go ahead and ditch boring car rentals and find your drive at Turo.com. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the LockedOn Giants podcast. I am Patricia Traina and joined, as always, by David Turner, former NFL scout. We are breaking down the Giants' 19-16 victory over the Carolina Panthers, the New York Giants, the first place New York Giants. Not very often we can say that. So, I know it might be temporary, depending on what happens in tomorrow night's game or Monday night's game, but hey, I'm going to say it. It's my show. I can say it, right?
Say it loud, say it proud.
Say it loud, exactly. All right, David, let's talk Daniel Jones. I think, we might as well have a segment called the Daniel Jones Watch. But how do you think Daniel Jones did this week?
1 error throw.
Right.
To me, there's two misreads and 1 error throw, for sure. And he looked a little timid. I think the rush got to him, and his eyes dropped down watching the rush a little bit because there's a couple plays that were open. If he would have just let the ball fly, we could have had some big plays. There was one to Tony on an over route that he just didn't even throw. He pulled the ball down. I was like, what are you doing? Tony's like, what? This is exactly how the play is designed. And Tony's wide open. Go get it. Like, just give it to him. Let it go. But I like Daniel's moxie, especially running the ball, and I won't say that a lot because, I don't like him running the ball at all.
Yeah.
But today he picked up some key first downs and some key yardage with his legs and, kept drives going. So, that's what they need once in a while, and he delivered for him for sure. Yeah. As far as throwing the ball, he was not as efficient. He was not anywhere near what we saw last week out of him. And again, he could have cost the team. There's that one out on the outside where if the DB caught it, he was 100 miles and running to the end zone because it was wide open. No one would have caught that DB. So I think Daniel needs to go back, watch a lot of good tape to watch from here. I mean, I know he was only sacked 3 times, but he was hit a bunch today, and that offensive line was leaky. Was
Yes, it
leaky.
was. And speaking of that offensive line, I mean, you can't. It wasn't just one guy. It was really across the board. I think even Andrew Thomas didn't pitch his usual shutout. I mean, at this point, I guess you don't panic, but can you do something to help him, or do you just chalk it up to a bad day at the office?
Um, for me, that right guard position was getting abused all day long, and it was tough to watch. It really was. Again, I don't think the center's helping correctly. I said it last week, and I'll say it again this week. I don't think the center's helping correctly.
With the
So
line
they,
calls, you mean?
yeah, the line. Well, just which way? Because usually you go one way or another in order to help a guard out, right? And I think today that they thought they were going to be able to leave 99 one-on-one with the left guard, but they wound up in double Brown over on the other side. But 99 was having a really good day, and he was getting a lot of push up front into Daniel's face. So they should either kept it back in there, maybe came in with a tight end on a motion to help that guard out and just kind of give a wham block inside or something to knock that guy back a little bit and keep him guessing. There's just ways to knock some sense into a D lineman that's having a good day. And I didn't see that. And the center kept going Brown's way. And I understand why. Brown's a massive man that's huge and powerful. But again, hold a tight end in, help out, try to give a little bit more protection, get some backs chipping and stuff to free it up. But the interior today really, I thought, was really abysmal. And so we got to clean that up. The tackles, I mean, I don't think Andrew Thomas had a terrible day.
No.
I think he gave up a couple pressures to a good rusher. And again, he was blocking one-on-one most of the day. He didn't get much help out there. So and Neal, I thought, had a really good day. He gave up a couple. I think one pressure, if I have my notes right. But I mean, he gave up. He gave up a couple where he shouldn't have as well. But I mean, those are some good rushers on the other side of the ball there
Sure.
now. Like, that's not chopped liver they're holding up against. Gross Matos and Burns are two young, good players. So let's give them credit. These youngsters, a sophomore and a freshman over there, basically held up pretty good. It was the interior to me that really struggled.
Yeah, and 99, by the way, is Matt Ioannidis, the former commander, I believe. I think he was with the Commanders for a number of years. So hopped on over to the Panthers. And Brian Burns, also on that defense was a handful. So I'm not saying that the Titans defense was garbage by any stretch of the imagination, but this Panthers defense a little bit tighter, I think, in their play against the Giants, and a little bit more of a handful than maybe last week. I think it was something like 9 hits, and I want to say, was it 4 sacks they had on him?
Three sacks for 14 yards.
3 sacks. Okay, yeah, but it was something like 9 hits. So they were getting after Daniel, and you're right. Daniel never really looked comfortable in the pocket, and just was kind of shaky. So, all right, I want to talk about the receivers because this obviously was a big deal. Kenny Golladay only got, I think, 2 snaps the entire game. Brian Dable, spoke about it. He said, "Look, it's a very competitive room, and one week, maybe Kenny gets more snaps than everybody else. The next week, maybe he doesn't. Some people are like, okay, is that coach speak, or is there something brewing here?" When you look at this game plan, the obvious conclusion, I think, other than maybe there's Kenny's in the doghouse, which I don't think is the case, is that Kenny was not a fit for what they wanted to do. Why wouldn't he have been a fit? Why wouldn't they have gotten him more involved? Is his skill set just so not a fit for what they were trying to do to the Panthers, or do you think there was something more to it?
I don't think they like Kenny Golladay.
Oh,
Personally.
okay.
And I think there's too many. I think he's right. I think the receiver room is too many tricks in the. There's too many good players right now, and
Mhm.
they're trying to make everybody happy. But here's the thing: when he had Diggs up in Buffalo, Diggs
Mhm.
got his balls. Now Gabriel Davis in the last game last year, in Kansas City got what 4 touchdowns or something, but no one knew Gabriel Davis's name most of the year. I did because I was watching that offense and I could see how good or how comfortable Josh Allen was with him throughout the whole season. But I mean, everybody got their balls that were supposed to get their balls last year when he was up in Buffalo. Here again, I said it last week and I say it again. They need to find a way to put Shepard, Tony, and Galladay on the field and keep them on the field together and watch this offense really sprout some wings. James is good, don't get me wrong. Sills is good, but they don't have the set to break the long ball and get going like Shepard, Galladay, and Tony. Tony is a rare individual. And I don't use that word very well or very often. When I say they're rare, Tony is a rare player. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but today he caught one ball and he put the brakes on, and the guy just went flying by like it was Maverick and freaking Goose. You know what I mean? I'm gonna hit the brakes. This guy's gonna fly right on by. And then his second step after that, he was almost at top speed. So like Tony's rare, and you put him and Shepard showed today. I mean, I think he was targeted 10 times, had 6 catches or something like that, and he's a guy that can get open. He's got sure hands. Like he's somebody that Daniel can depend on like crazy. And Galladay to me, he's so big and he's so long and he can make acrobatic catches. They're just underutilizing him. And again, it's cool to have James. It's cool to have Sills. Like I get them. They can be your special teams guys that come in and when you need 4 receiver packages. But right now, you got to keep the triplets on the field and make them successful with Barkley and working Myrick and working the other tight end, the other rookie tight end.
Yeah,
So
Bellinger.
Bellinger, thank you. And so, for me, this offense, if you want me, we talk about him tailoring the offense all the time, and I think he's going to end up tailoring this offense really well. But to me, it's instead of calling it 11 personnel, I would almost go with like a 20, 2 running backs and 3 receivers, no tight ends. Like, that's what I would do with this offense because you can really put them at a disadvantage. A lot of defenses with 20 personnel, with having Breida, Barkley, Shepard, Tony, and Galladay on the field at one time. Like, what? That's going to be confusing. Like, you know what I mean? Because Tony can run the ball, Shepard can run the ball, Breida can run the ball, Shaq can run the ball. Obviously, you could spread Shaq out and he can play in the slot a little bit. Breida definitely can play in the slot. And you got all these other receivers run all over the place. And then you got the Galladay, this big guy. Like, that would be confusing. Like, if I was in the building and Brian trusted me, like, if Dable trusted me, like I've had trust with other coaches, I just walk in his office and be like, dude, you need to be riding this 20 personnel, like, all day long. Like, this is it. This is us. The 20 personnel is us. And put it in his ear. Like, that's what I would do because I see it so clearly right now that 20 personnel with the talent they have would cause a lot of problems for people.
Can't hurt. I mean, look, they're all about being creative and, why not? But, if Kenny's in the doghouse, and I'm not saying he is, but if he is, as you suggest that he might be, then they probably aren't going to go that route. I mean, Kenny, I don't think is going to be with this team next year. That contract, I know that contract bothers them. So I don't know.
But if you're
Maybe
paying a guy that much money, you better get use out of him.
you would think, but you know what? Dable has shown that he doesn't care how much you make or what draft slot you were or your pedigree. You're going to play if you fit what they want to do and you earn the right to play. And really, at the end of the day, what's wrong with that thinking?
Again, you're paying him a ton of money. and he's a gifted player. He's not. I don't hear he's complaining in the locker room. I don't hear he's being a turd. I haven't heard any of those rumors. If they are happening, they're keeping him quiet. But it just seems like he's sulking a little bit. Like, man, you paid me all this money to come here, and you're not using me. And I
Different
remember
regime, though.
I was in Oakland with Randy Moss, and Randy Moss in Oakland would would holler at our head coach all the time, like, "Man, use me more, even if I'm a decoy. Put me on the field as a decoy because they're gonna have to cover me, which will free up other people."
Mhm.
And the head coach tried not to use him and this and that and blah blah blah. And then we traded him to New England the following year, and oh good golly, he still had a lot of tools. He still could play football. He scored a ton of points that year. All I'm saying is the NFL is about matchups and matchup problems, matchup issues. Galladay on the field will give you more matchup issues than the other ones out there. And
Mhm.
that will open up your offense. With him on the field, it'll open up your offense.
Well, I guess we'll have to see what next week, or actually a week from tomorrow, or no, I'm sorry, today is Monday, so we'll have to see what next week brings because the Giants will host the Dallas Cowboys. The Giants currently a 3-point favorite. They open up as a 3-point favorite according to our friends at BetOnline, and gosh, I don't know, man. A Dak Prescott less Cowboy team. But to me, that's still a tough customer for the Giants. I mean, if I
They
had,
won today. I watched that game too,
yeah, they
and
did.
it was a tough, hard fought battle. They took Cooper Rush took it to them. Now they had a
Hmm.
good game, and obviously the defense stood up and stayed tight. They got a lot of pressure. Michael Parsons got a lot of pressure. Coming off the edge, and they moved him inside. They moved him all the way around to pick on whoever they need to pick on. So, you know, I think Dallas coming in, it's a definite winnable game. They don't have that. Their tight end got dinged up a little bit today. So I mean, it's a winnable game for us, and if we can get one or two of those kids back on the pass rush, we'll be in a better situation. Obviously, it gives Williams an extra day to heal up if he can play. We'll see what comes of that too. So I'm excited to see that matchup because it's the first time in a while that we could have a really good matchup. I again talking about Dallas, I think that Dallas defensive line can be pushed around a little. Go back to what Tampa Bay did to them. Their smaller D line, you got to just come off the ball and hit them in the mouth, and hit them in the mouth a bunch until they start bleeding, and then keep going back to that wound. It's just like jabbing, just keep jabbing, and eventually it'll open up. I mean, Tampa Bay did it with Fournette, and I think having Barkley do it with us, we could have a really big game rushing the ball next Monday night. That's my opinion, and I'm going to stick to it. But that being said, you know, one other thing that we didn't clean up, we need to clean up. We had 8 penalties today.
Yes.
So, and we gave 4 first downs off penalties today. So, they
Yeah.
had 14 first downs and 4 of them came from our penalties. So I know that's something Wink's going to clean up and, talk about to his defense because you can't be giving NFL teams 4 first downs off penalties.
No.
You can slide with 1 or 2 maybe, but that's okay. But, giving 4 first downs out, that's 4 opportunities to stay on the field. That's too many. So we got 8 penalties is too many for this Giants team. They're just not there yet. You can't recover from that. So we were fortunate today to come away with a good win, hard fought win, but it could have been a blowout if we would have stayed to our identity, rushing the ball, didn't have all those penalties, and we were able to just do a little bit more in that pass game. We did good, but I think we need to be able to just get a little bit more out of it.
Well, like Dable said, there's still a lot that has to be cleaned up. So we'll see what happens during the week. They get an extra day to work on to prepare for Dallas. So the Giants have corrections Monday, then they're off Tuesday, practice Wednesday, Thursday. I think they're. I'm trying to remember if they're off Friday. I know we don't have access Friday. Then I think practice is Saturday, and then the walkthrough Sunday, and then the game Monday night. Monday Night Football. Boy, do I hate Monday Night Football. But I hate it because everything gets pushed up, and it gets late and all that stuff. But
Well,
you know
yeah,
what?
you East Coasters, we love Monday
I
night
know
out here on the West Coast.
well, when you do as much as I'm doing between the
Yeah.
pod and the writing and all that stuff and managing a site. But
No,
anyway,
I'll tell you, when I went to work for the Dolphins, and then I came up and worked for the Giants, that East Coast Monday night and Sunday night games were just such bears to work because you were just like up all night. Like you really didn't sleep after the game. You had to
yep.
process what you had to process, put everything together, get the reports ready for the coaches. It was a late night,
It,
and then you had a
mhm,
quick turnaround because you usually had a short week, so you didn't get to
mhm.
catch up on much sleep. It was the Monday and Sunday night games were rough for East Coasters. Now on the West Coast, because the game's over early enough, it's not as hard on your body and on your time.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm sleeping in my car up there. I I mean, I don't live far from the stadium, but I'm sleeping in my car. Seriously, I because it's just look, you do what you got to do. I'm not trying to sound like I'm complaining, but it is challenging. But thankfully, we've got great listeners here on the Locked On Giants podcast who know that okay, if the pod's not out right away, it'll be out shortly thereafter on Tuesday. So, on that note, David, great stuff as always. I appreciate you, Giant fans. I appreciate you tuning in to the Locked On Giants podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day or watching on YouTube, your first watch of the day. Don't forget tomorrow, Twitter Tuesday. Get those questions into me, and I'll get as many as I can on the program. For David Turner, I'm Patricia Traina. Everybody, have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.